What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fights on College Football show. The season's over. We're finally in the offseason, our first official offseason episode of 2025 as Ohio State takes the crown, takes down Notre Dame 34-23 in the national title game on Monday night. If you weren't a part of our pregame show, you missed it, but hopefully we'll do more in the future. Our first full year in existence, going every week, consistent content. And we appreciate you guys for being here if you're here again. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to start tonight's show. Let's talk to the boys because we're going to recap the Natty. We're going to do our end of season top 25, and we're going to talk some other things, all college football all the time. JP, how we doing tonight? What'd you think of the national championship as a whole?
Pumped. I enjoyed it. I mean, I think I had a ton of fun watching the game. I understand like some people that liked the excitement at the end and didn't feel like it was as close the whole way. I think it was just a play away. It felt like it was going to slip away at some point. But to just see the battle back, right, and Ohio State find a way to just hang on as much as possible and then hit a big play late that we hadn't seen much throughout the day. I mean, I thought it was a great national title. And it's not going to go down as one of the top 5 games of all time, but it was enjoyable nonetheless.
I thought it had the feel like a blowout a majority of the game. And then when Notre Dame got that 2-point conversion to cut it to 8, at least we got like that sense of, all right, this is a big play right here late when Jeremiah Smith caught that long pass. But at least we got that feeling. The score kind of felt closer than really the game felt the majority of the time. What do you think of the game as a whole, Jake?
Yeah, exactly. To your point. I thought, yeah, Ohio State controlled it pretty much from the jump. I think we've seen a team come out and dominate a first drive like Notre Dame did, and then just struggle as much as they did for the next essentially 2.5 quarters until they woke up maybe late in the third. But I was just happy to see a competitive game. I guess competitive to a sense, like it was, like you said, Parks, at least we had that feeling in the fourth quarter of this could actually change the game. The game is on the line here. It did come down to a final play, and arguably a top 5 player in college football next year makes the game-winning play to seal it. So very poetic, I guess, for Jeremiah Smith's campaign going into 2025. But it's better than what we've gotten in the last 4 or 5 years, right? I thought the game, I don't know. I think JP said it the other night. Michigan-Washington game was closer. Like it was a little more back and forth 3 quarters, but by the end there was no question. Whereas on the other side, it was a blowout, but you sat in your seat the entire game until the final 2 minutes to decide who's actually going to come out with it.
All right. With that, first of all, I want to go back on your point and say arguably a top 5 player in college football next year. I would be dumbfounded if there was somebody out there arguing against him being a top, not outside of the top 5 players in college football. I mean, he is
fair point.
Should be probably in the running for the cover of College Football 26. Little exit.
He's got one more.
What do you guys think?
More year. He's got one more
Who cares?
year. I don't use somebody else this year.
Who would you think? Or way too early prediction on this, but if you had to throw a name out there.
Well, they're going to do. Yeah, I don't know. Are they going to do multiple again this year?
I think they should either keep multiple logos on the front in schools, or they should do like a legacy. I
like the one cover.
Cade Klubnik comes to mind, though. I don't know why. It just feels like Klubnik's kind of been around, seasoned veteran. I mean, Clemson's going to be probably a top 12, top 10 team next year. Maybe Carson Beck
in a Miami uniform. And a big marketing one for me would be Arch.
I thought about Arch, but like he hasn't played he hasn't started a legitimate full season, I should say.
Yeah, it's a fair point, but I think it just depends on whether or not they're going for somebody that's impactful in college football or just the marketing side of things.
I kind of like the multiple.
Yeah, I think the one covers are so cool.
I think it's so iconic, and that game was just that era.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to be the same. Well, let's
Yep.
just turn the page and
Yep.
let's be different because
I agree.
it's just not the same thing, right?
Just
Like
do a
that is
Legends
NCAA
edition. Put
football.
It's not
Saban.
NCAA football anymore. It's college football
Yeah.
25.
So let's
I
leave
agree.
that in the
That was
past.
that era.
But
All
I
right.
like the logos, right? But I'd mix in some more G5, sprinkle in a Georgia Southern in there. Throw me an App State logo, throw me a Memphis logo, stuff like that.
That would be fun. We appreciate the G5 here. But all right, let's go into the national title recap. Let's talk the entire game as a whole. Obviously, we gave you our brief thoughts, but let's deep dive into the national title game. This was, I think I kind of hit the nail on the head when I said it felt closer towards the end than it really felt at the beginning. Ohio State gets taken for an 18-play drive to open up the game, and then all of a sudden they just stop. They can't stop scoring. I mean, I don't know if Ohio State or Notre Dame had a better script to start the game because Ohio State, I don't know how many deep they were, but it felt like Notre Dame's script was all taken up on one drive, 18 plays, resulting in Riley Leonard's yak on the sideline. Seemed like he was gassed the rest of the day. And Will Howard never slowed down, and that offensive attack looked incredible against a really good Notre Dame defense. What did you guys think of that first drive? Did it kind of change your way that you thought of the game, or what did you think? Like, you're like, oh God, maybe Notre Dame's really here and can do this thing.
It's a lot to ask somebody to do for 4 quarters, but it was impressive nonetheless. I thought, okay, we have our foundation. They respect that you're going to run the football and you're going to stay with who you are. Got to hit a couple play action passes. We need to not just be between the tackles the whole time, right? Like, here's the foundation being laid, and it ended up just not being the case because once they tried to go back to it for their, next couple drives, just no shot. I mean, between the tackles was shut down, nobody getting open downfield. And so I thought that played out as good as it could for Notre Dame. Like, everything went according to plan, and then it was time to react and adjust and settle into the game without the script. And it just never really got rolling again where Ohio State was ready for it. And I think just getting hit in the mouth that hard, repeatedly for 18 plays was like a wake-up call. If Notre Dame would have scored quick, gone 3 first downs and then a 50-yard run, I think it would have been Ohio State would be oh, we're good. We're just, don't give up the big play, right? It might have been a little bit different, and that we're just what ifs type stuff. But to get beat down like that, I think just changed the kind of the way the rest of the game was going to be played. And you can't ask Riley Leonard to get hit like that. It wasn't like he was just getting tackled; he's getting popped consistently, and that was a lot. That's a lot for that kid to take in, any quarterback to take in.
I was trying to figure out how to meme it or how I could make the video, but the video that came out after the game of that girl crashing the golf cart, everybody's seen it by now.
Yeah,
I tried to make it that's Notre Dame's offense, and it was the first drive they were putting it in reverse, starting to turn it, and then every drive after that it seemed like just boom, hit a wall. And Jack Sawyer's group took advantage of it, and really Ohio State's offense never stopped. That was more impressive to me. It was 3 perfect drives, and I believe even Kirk Herbstreit said on the broadcast, he was I don't know if I've ever seen this well executed of any offensive scheme in a national title game ever. I mean, it was just run to perfection throughout the entire first 3 drives. They put up 21, they get to 28 for the half, and it really felt oh God, here comes the college football's full of blowouts. And at least Notre Dame made something out of it. What did you think in detail, Jake?
Yeah, I think when you have such a good first possession, such a great start for Notre Dame, exactly how you wanted it to happen. Basically that everything that didn't need to go wrong did for them. I guess after that point, couldn't sustain a drive. Actually, that's even a lack of a better term. They couldn't get a first down.
Was it 9 plays the next 3 drives?
Yeah, no first downs in the next 3 drives. And then I think the worst part on top of that was a group that you thought you could rely on in the defense gave up 4 straight touchdowns, I believe, of possessions that were of 75 yards or more, just driving them up and down the field. So even if the game and the outcome could have changed just even a little bit had Notre Dame sustained a drive of over 5 minutes, and maybe they don't come out with points in those first 3, but they sustain a couple of drives. They keep the offense off the field. And then, geez, you think you could get 1 stop out of those 4, but no, they couldn't. And then they come out of the half, and Judkins, what was it, Judkins, right? That broke that 50-yard run right out of the gate. Just back-breaking stuff for Notre Dame. And I think the one piece of the offense that maybe you didn't expect if you were Notre Dame and you weren't really ready for if you were Notre Dame was Will Howard's legs on long downs, long distance situations killed him. Killed him, man. They defended the run in the first half actually okay. Like Henderson and Judkins were getting about 3 or 4 yards, but then it was like a 6-yard pass, 7-yard pass. They're keeping everything underneath. You're thinking maybe they're gonna finally get that stop after 2 or 3 first downs, and then Will Howard gets you for another scramble and a first down. Just killed you at the absolute worst times.
The first 3 Ohio State drives went 11 plays 75, 10 plays 76, 12 plays 80. 12 plays 80 was right before half. And just
can't be much better.
Like whether you were tired out or not, like, and you're going in to have to get a break, that defense was run down. That's beaten into the ground, man.
Yep.
And it's, then in the second half, you started to get your quicker drives for Ohio State, right? You got 5 plays 75, 6 plays 5 for field goal. I believe that was after a turnover on downs, like an early one, if I'm not mistaken. The fake punt was that right after half. Like they're down 28-7. By the way,
that was so
catch the football. If you're going to call a play, that's fine. Catch the football. Don't even worry about it. And then Ohio State ended up fumbling. This saved them from slaughter. Was the fumble? The Emeka Ibuka. Oh my God, Emeka Ibuka fumble. Like that saved them from slaughter. Like that'd have been 38-15, and it'd have been night. And honestly, like a great play, but then you go down and you kick the field goal.
You missed the field goal.
I just said kicked. I wanted to be nice and respectful here. 12 plays, 70 yards, right, in just over 5 minutes, and you kick the field goal. You missed field goal.
Well, JP, I think that's a credit to like what won Ohio State the national title. That right there, had Notre Dame off the fumble, goes and scores a touchdown, could have been a different story, but it's Ohio State's red zone defense that continues, like in the Texas game, just continues to win them football games. They did it in Happy Valley and Penn State to win the game. That group was sound all year. Absolute nails.
Yeah, I mean, you're behind the 8 ball already, and then basically what you did is you took the 8 ball and you threw it off the table and you had to run and go and get it just to get it back on the table, have another shot. Like it just seemed off to me to kick that field goal. And I know that got a lot of press and a lot of people all over the place, but it felt like a no shit decision. Throw this ball at the end zone, give yourself a shot, right? Like, and I'm not going to, sit here and act like I
want to know the explanation. I don't think we ever got an explanation in a press conference, the post game. Like, I want to hear from the analytics guy. I want to hear from Freeman why they thought being down 13 was the move there with 9 minutes left.
I think them losing by 8 saves them from having to explain that as much, right? Like if they'd have lost by 2+ scores, that's all that people would be talking about. They'd be like, we really kicked field goal right there. That's really what we thought was the move, right? Because even if you score and then you kick a field goal, you still need a 2-point conversion and the field goal. Like it just made no sense. But someone I think that the Great House kid, for Notre Dame, awesome. Stepping up, man.
He's back.
I mean, like legit plays, like not just like catch ball in the end zone. 20-yard touchdown, guys open, making guys miss, extending his routes on the scramble, making plays for Leonard. Like that was awesome to see, especially late in that game. Like started to make plays and it was like, oh shit, we got a receiver at Notre Dame, right? This is the first time we've seen one in a little bit that outside of the tight end position we were really stunned with. So it's just. And then I think the other like kind of coaching thing we talked about in the group chat was why are we in zero coverage? If it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9,
3rd and 9
late, right?
That was the frustrating part is they're blitzing all night. They never got to Howard. So that was the frustrating thing was like
3rd and 11.
It's 3rd and 11. You're going to send the house. You're going to make Howard throw a completion, make a play, give it to his best player, whatever. But it gave it away all game. None of the blitzes were working. Like you knew Howard was going to have time to throw it. I think they were like, well, it's just Will Howard. He's not Peyton Manning. If they give him just a little bit of pressure, maybe he underthrows Smith, maybe he overthrows Smith. But you did to him all game. So why did you think in that situation you were going to trust the zero coverage there?
Yeah, my whole thought press on it was like, let's sit in cover 2, let's sit in cover 3, right? Let's just bring our normal, let's play a base defense And if we are that confident in our run defense and our ability to stop the run in this 3rd and 11, right, not give up 12, we're good. We give up 7, fine. Give up 5, fine. Give up 10, fine, right? But giving up the big plays is the one thing that could hurt you in that spot, and it's exactly what happened. The guy's an elite route runner. Ball wasn't thrown great. Doesn't matter. He was that wide open, and
So
it just felt like two decisions didn't kill the whole thing, but two decisions in those spots I thought were questionable.
I know you can't like flip flop the field. That's not how this works. But I don't know why they let Christian Gray guard Smith as much as he did. Like it's the freshman, the true freshman, 15 for Notre Dame. Can't think of his name right now, but he's just like size matchup was just such a better matchup for Smith than Christian Gray was. Just an undersized corner, and he's had his fair share of, one-on-ones getting beat this year for Notre Dame, and that was just a bad spot. But what are you going to do, I guess?
I think you're muted. Got him.
All right. I'm unmuted now. I think the Wi-Fi is struggling tonight. But anyway, one point I want to mention is we haven't talked about Will Howard yet, but not that his legs were huge, as Jake said, but like he was like 18 for 19 at one point in the game, and he finished 17 for 21 because they got out to such a heavy lead. But he was so impressive, and I'm not sure if I'm more impressed with Will Howard or just the schematics behind how open guys were. Like he threw so well under the pressure. The one where he winked at the camera, like right as he was getting hit.
Yeah.
Like it was impressive throws. Like that was experience come to tuition there. And I mean, Will Howard 17 for 21 for 231 and 2 scores. Granted, yes, you have a loaded wide receiving core, but Quinshon Judkins being the heavy touchdown guy with Trevion Henderson back there who gets the majority of carries, I would say, pretty impressive as well. That 70-yarder really stunned the game open. It felt like it was going to be a 45-10 game at the end of it.
Yeah,
so
I thought they came out at 27, and I was like, it's over. There's no shot here. But I think a lot of the credit, like you give Notre Dame their credit, right? But I think a lot of their comeback was due to Ohio State just playing everything in front, everything in front, right? And then they ended up, even when they had the turnover, they made them go 70 yards, right? Like it's not like they were turning over in the red zone or on their side of the 50. And so it was a lot of like playing it was kind of playing not to lose in some ways. It was very conservative. It was very protecting.
They're relying on they're the number one team in the country that relies on turnovers, points off of turnovers. But what did they say? Ohio State's given it up just 5 times or something like that this year. It's a crazy number. I'm taking the team that protects the ball over the team that forces it, usually 8-9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Turnovers are hard to predict and hard to, rely on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we said Notre Dame needed a couple of Will Howard mistakes, and he really just didn't make them. Like he was so sound within what they were doing that he let the other guys make the plays, and it benefited them hugely. But that is the entire game deep dive. Let's go into the postseason or afterthoughts of these two teams because I want to ask Jake a question. But before we do so, let's remind you to shop No Rivals, our good partner at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. It's our premium collegiate headwear brand. Adding schools by the day, just got new designs out there. If you're a fan of camo, give those a look on shopnorivals.com and use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all your premium collegiate headwear, unique designs, premium headwear, like I said. So get those hats today and we'll cover the shipping for you with code PTFS. Shout out No Rivals, shopnorivals.com today. Jake, we got to address it. First thing you said, 10 minutes after the national title, text comes through. What if I told you I still don't believe in Ryan Day? Why? And why? Why did you say it then and there? Why did you feel that immediately? And tell us the reasons why.
Listen, we do this. I was going to say we do this for a living. We do this as a regular show, and we try to have good
reminder. Subscribe. Reminder. Subscribe. Subscribe. We would love to do that, but reminder.
But like we do this regularly, and we try to, be as level-headed as we do it. I don't want to sound like that fake fan on Twitter just trying to trash on Ryan Day. Looking back, it's easy to say now. It's like, oh, you're the loser sitting on your couch watching the football game. But man, was it his not to lose this year? Because we talked about in August how loaded this team was.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
$26 million roster. He's not wrong.
It's fine.
It's not
Like,
even.
how about?
It's like
But if we're
no.
gonna do
Listen,
that, like, you
listen.
gotta
Just
go like
let me
Kirby's
let me
roster.
let me finish. Let me finish. I agree, JP. It's not the $20 million roster because everybody's got it. Georgia has it too, but you have. And to his credit, he recruits really well. Like Jeremiah Smith could be one of the best players we've seen in college football in the last half decade. You have a literal head coach in Chip Kelly running your offense. You have Jim Knowles, who right now now that Al Golden's gone, he's still top 3 defensive coordinators in college football. Um, it's just Quinshawn Judkins comes in. He was freshman all SEC 2 years ago, and he's paired with Travion Henderson. And it's just like the talent is so good on both sides here. And I don't know. It's we're going to talk about our 12-team playoff thoughts, and maybe this kind of ties into it, but just I'm not even a Michigan fan, and it just feels like because it's so new, it feels like an asterisk because I am very it's still vividly planted in my head that Michigan game and how not saying they didn't deserve to win it all because they took care of business once the playoff came around, but like I'm still in that 4-team playoff mindset where like, how did Ryan Day lose even 2 games? And granted, they got the revenge on Oregon. They took care of it in Eugene, but just like, how'd you even find a way to lose 2 games with that team and figure it out until the very last minute? It'll be interesting. I mean, Kelly's going to be around next year. Knowles will be around, but like, I don't know when those guys leave eventually and take other jobs or retire or whatever have you.
I can see what you're saying.
Who knows?
What would the narrative have been like? Let's say the 4-teamer still exists. It's not the 12-team format, and Ohio State misses the playoffs. Like, what would people have said about the roster that they had? Quinshaw Judkins, all the talent on the outside, getting Will Howard.
He wouldn't.
Like,
People wouldn't put him as
downs.
People wouldn't have put him as a top 8
20.
coach in college football. I don't mean 20 is maybe an overreaction.
Dude, with that roster to lose to Michigan, miss the Big Ten title, and miss the playoff.
Yeah, I'm not crazy enough to overreact to the national title, but I'm also not crazy enough to, if they had lost, I wouldn't have put him down at the 40th best coach in college football. But he's just like my opinion really doesn't change on him right now. Let's see if he can sustain it. I don't think dynasties are going to be really hard in the 12-team era and the transfer portal era, but we'll see. We'll see if he can continue this success, and maybe the 12-team playoff era is just built for Ryan Day, and he'll be one of those all-time coaches.
Do you think, and I'm only asking this not as a personal thing, but just from what's floating around social media, and I'll address this to JP, his job's pretty locked up, right? Like, you think he'll get a lengthier contract? I've seen
I don't
people
think it ever
say
was.
don't buy into it.
It never was. I don't know. It never
What if he
was
loses to Michigan next year? What if he loses to Michigan next
People
year?
are crazy, man.
It's going to be the same thing.
I don't doubt it, but people are crazy. JP's, you're sitting there. You got something?
I'm being quiet. I'm just saying, like, I just wanted to hear your point. To me, if you're gonna call out and say that, can he sustain it? I would say that he already has. The only blemish on there,
correct,
right?
Is Michigan.
He's already been there. Is Michigan?
Yep.
He's a field goal away from a national title 2 years ago. Last year, like, just the way it played out, and Michigan won a national title, so your loss is to, one of the national champion in that way. So like he has sustained it. So it's not can he still sustain it? Or will he sustain it now? It's already been going on. Like, it's going to continue to be that way.
The part for me is hard to accept too is kind of the Harbaugh saying, the born on third base. Like when I think of where Kirby has taken Georgia, where Nick Saban took Alabama from where they were before.
What's the difference between
Ohio State? Urban Meyer left it in a pretty good spot for Ryan Day.
So did Mark Richt. Like, the only difference is Mark Richt didn't have national titles. That's the only difference.
Are people going to say the same thing about Kalen DeBoer if he has success at Alabama? Like, oh, well, he should.
You would,
right?
But it's completely different because he got a roster that was not the same roster Saban had. Like, it's the same concept to me, like the Mark Richt to Kirby Smart and the Urban to Ryan Day. Like, Ohio State had one national championship year. Georgia was right there knocking on the door every year anyway. They're playing for a chance to go play for a national title or to get into the 14 playoff every year. Not every year, but you know what I'm saying, quite frequently. And I understand like why people don't like Ryan Day. Like some people don't like his demeanor. Some people don't like the way he,
Right.
just kind of presents himself. Some people just don't like his beard. I don't know. Some people just don't
That's true.
like other people. It's just how the world works. I don't feel that way about him. I think it's similar to like everybody really hates Texas. I don't dislike Texas. Like I don't have anything against them. It's just one of those things where, to me, like people are going to find something to be very upset about. And I'm not saying this is what you were saying, Jake. I'm just saying in general, you're going to go on socials.
Yeah.
They're going to find something to be upset about around Ryan Day, right? But to just kind of like keep going on what, your side of the text, I think if you're not sold on it, then I don't know what else you wanted to do. Like he was already doing really well. Like I said, he's a field goal away from his second national title, being this one. He consistently recruits, whether he's got the backing or not. Like guys want to play for him. Not only do they want to play for him, I'd say for the majority of a lot of this, like people stay in Columbus, protect him. Like his players want to play for him that are there right now, right? So I think that's a huge pull. And anytime you get kids that want to continue to stay on campus and play for you, it's a big deal.
All right, let's leave the Ryan Day conversation there for now. I'm sure he'll arise in our topics of conversation throughout the offseason, so we'll address it then. But for now, let's change pages to the college football playoff as a whole. The first year of the 12-teamer is done, finished, put a bow on it. What'd you think? What needs to change? What can be better? Jake, you lead us off. And fans, by the way, sorry, Jake. Fans, by the way, drop your thoughts. We want to know. It's your show as much as ours. Place to talk college football all the time. So drop your thoughts in the comments on the 12-team playoff. You hate it, you love it, and what you would change. Now go ahead, Jake.
I think it's in a good spot. I said this the other night. I think me and JP were more still pro, like 14 playoff, not expanding kind of thing. I'm still a little more like, the 14 was great. I was all about 6 or 8. 6 would have been the perfect number. But besides the point, I think in the first go around, I thought that the 12-team playoff was pretty successful. There's things that can be tweaked, obviously, but I trust that we will make it as college football fans and just to continue to strengthen the sport. I want to start with the good. It's got to be like the first and easy one is just the home atmospheres for those first round playoff games were fantastic. The blowouts suck, but how'd the first round playoffs of the NFL go? It's not great.
I'd say the blowouts suck, but you had Big Ten, SEC playing each other. Big Ten, ACC, that's just the nature of the beast and of the year. I would say more so.
I think that the first round playoff blowouts is correlated to the auto buys. If we want to go with the bad side, those are my first two, good and bad. Got to get rid of them. Sounds like we're going to have them next year, but maybe in 2 years we'll make some changes. But going back and thinking about like what could have been in the first round without the auto buys, there would have been we would have gotten at least 1 or 2 close games, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. I think what JP says is uber important too. Like I think the year depends on it a lot. Like those first round home playoff games, do I automatically expect next year when it's the same exact format for those to be blowouts? No. Will I be shocked? Like, yeah, I just think the teams and the talent difference between the third place SEC team and the third place quote unquote Ohio State team in the Big Ten was just that big this year. I mean, you saw Ohio State end up winning the national title. So no, it doesn't shock me that they blew Tennessee out as the third or fourth best SEC team. So I think it's so year to year that I won't automatically expect a blowout in round 1 on campuses next year. JP, what are your thoughts, good and bad, of the 12-team playoff for 24-25?
I enjoyed it. I did. I think we harped on the buys enough, but I'll just kind of touch on some other things. Like the first round buys stink, but the first round playoff games are awesome. I think having it on campus, I'm still up in the air. Like I like the idea of the quarterfinals on campus.
So the first 2 rounds on campus.
Yeah. So like quarterfinals, it'd be first round quarterfinals. Semifinal would be your first neutral site, right?
Yep.
There's a couple things I would love to see that I don't think I'd see. I'd love to see Pasadena be the national championship location. Something about outdoors is really cool to me. As long as we keep it out of like San Francisco,
oh God,
Like they used to do like a lot of Super Bowls in Candlestick in San Francisco. And That's
Yeah.
lame to me. Like I don't know. I think I'm just watching on TV like the Mercedes-Benz. It's right. Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, in Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah.
It's just
Mercedes-Benz
not
Stadium.
visually pleasing to me. I don't know. So I like it. Like the grass looks really nice in Pasadena.
How many games did we play there this year in college football?
What
At
about
least
even
5
like
or 6,
in
wasn't
Phoenix?
it?
I think
Good
Phoenix
point.
would be awesome. Again it rotates. I understand that, but Pasadena would be awesome. But the home games for the quarterfinals, that would be like and I think this is why it probably won't go that direction. Is if it's that we're getting rid of the auto buys, right? Like that would have been cool to get Boise a home game. It would have been great to get
Mhm.
Arizona State a home game. It would have been great for a lot of those schools to get a home game. But I don't think they're going to do it now that those schools theoretically could be, your Big Ten runner-up, your SEC runner-up, maybe an ACC champion or SEC champion, Big Ten champion, that kind of stuff. So I think they're less likely to give them a home game in that stuff, and people want the money to go into these bowl games because I think there's only one bowl game that really holds its. I think it's the Rose Bowl still. Like the Rose Bowl committee has its issues on how they handle things in college football and who they think they are in the whole sport. I think the bowl game in itself, the entity of it, holds a high spot, and I think it should be treated that way. Like it's the only one that has merit that needs to be having its shot to be a bowl game within this playoff.
Okay, that makes sense. I like those thoughts. I would just piggyback. Obviously, I already made the point of I think that it's year to year, and that's going to change a lot of things over the season, especially with how these teams can change during the offseason now in today's age of college football. But I think when what I wanted the 12 team for, I was always an advocate for a bigger playoff because I was tired of 13-0 Cincinnati getting left out, a 12-0 UCF getting left out, things like that. We got to see Boise State in the mix. And I would say whether it was a first round game or not, it wasn't a first round game, but they competed. Like that Boise State game, they got beat by a good Penn State team that had almost, was a couple plays away from playing for a national title. But like that's just what I wanted to see. I wanted those smaller schools to get the opportunity to put their product on the national
Imagine
stage.
if they could have hosted SMU, like how much more fun that would be.
Right.
What about this would have been? This is kind of off topic, but it's not because we've discussed it a lot. How well does that Coastal team do that year? That Parks was just adamant needed to be in
2020
that
Coastal.
Yeah. Or how well does that Cincinnati team do that played Alabama?
Or BYU that year?
Yeah.
That 2020 year.
I think that Cincinnati team,
the first one,
got a real shot. Like I don't know.
Again,
that's
they're
being like, oh, Penn State's just going to play conservative and a super, basic style of football. I think that Cincinnati team would have had a real shot at them. Like would have played really.
We're talking about an everyday NFL starter, Desmond Ridder.
Would have bowed up and been really good against the run. They had Sauce Gardner. They had a decent secondary with an all-star corner, and then they pretty solid offense, right?
My boy Alec Pierce, receiver for the Colts.
Yeah, like they were solid. I think they would have scared. They didn't have the superstar Gene is, but nonetheless,
because even when they lost a few of those pieces, got the playoff bid, played Alabama, that game wasn't like a blowout, just complete.
No, they hung on. But Alabama did kind of what Penn State did to Boise State, which was super conservative, vanilla, just kind of play the game and just avoid disaster kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the depth is what kills those teams. That's really what it is. So I think that's a good point to make. But I would say that the one bad side of the 12-teamer for me in the first year, and we talked about the seeding issues, but you got to find, whether it's getting rid of the buys, like Jake said, but you have to find a better path for the 1 seed. Like I really felt like if you looked at the bracket, and whether that means you just mess up the seeding because they didn't match the seeding with the national ranking of the team in the playoff poll, just make it so that SMU, Boise State happens to play the 1. Like there was no benefit. It was either Ohio State or Tennessee for Oregon. What the fuck is the benefit from being a 13-0 only undefeated in college football? Because Notre Dame had an easier path. Georgia had an easier path. Everybody on that bracket had an easier path than Oregon did. So they just kind of got, it was a little bit of a tough play for them, but I think they can fix that pretty easily by just seeding the teams, knowing that next year. So easy fix. But what did you guys think on that, the seeding?
Go ahead.
The seating was it was fine. I've heard what do they call it? Like rearranging the seeds after each round. And I don't like that either. That's NFL format
That could get
again.
really
The
messy.
entire NFL format.
Yeah, we're college football. You don't I compare it to March Madness a little bit. Like you don't reseed it in the March Madness tournament. Keep it, in collegiate sports, like keep it similar
Yeah.
that route. But it was just the poor draw, and Oregon wouldn't have gotten Ohio State or Tennessee had again we go back to the bye situation because just it would have been shifted around and Oregon wouldn't have had to run into either of those teams. I mean, what would you rather have them do? Play the winner of the 5-12? The one plays the 5-12?
Now,
Yeah,
it's got to
I
be
had to
8
beat
9.
somebody good anyway. It just felt like, Texas had SMU, Penn State had Boise. Like these first round matchups just felt like such an easy path. And then here comes Oregon with Tennessee, Ohio State, two perennial brands in college football. Like it just felt like they got, and it could be what you're saying, where like in college basketball, when you make March Madness, sometimes you just get a bad region. Sorry.
And then I was going to say too they made the bed with the seeding. And what were you going to do? Put Ohio State as a 10 seed because you didn't want Oregon to play Ohio State in the second round. But it's like Ohio State was legitimately the 8th ranked team out of those bottom 4 after you did the buys. So you had to put them there. You put that there that the 8 and 9 would play the 1. So it's just kind of the bed you made for the college football playoff committee.
All right. Let's leave that there. That's the 12-team discussion. We'll talk about that format as things change and they, edit things or just talk about it going forward because I'm sure we'll have some news throughout the offseason, which we will cover like we do everything else college football. But with that, let's go into the postseason top 25 talk. We wanted to break it down. You've seen a lot of, different brands on 3 ESPN come out with these ranking postseason top 25, what you thought about the sport, what you think moving forward, kind of a glance into the future with these rankings and maybe what you can see him build on next year. Let's lead it off with JP. JP said he doesn't love, it was Jake or JP either said they don't love these pre-show. Okay, it is JP. All right, JP, tell us about it.
It's not too far different from what the AP poll has in a lot of spots. So I'll start with the top 5. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas, Penn State. I have Georgia outside of the top 5. I don't even with Carson Beck, that was a good Georgia team, but I'm not ready to throw them in the top 5. And just kind of what I saw, even in that that Notre Dame game, I don't know. That's just where I was on the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have them in the top 5.
I thought the top 5 was hard to rank because
it is.
I just it makes sense that you have Texas above Georgia, but Georgia beat Texas twice this year.
I know.
So that's
why I don't love it. Yeah.
So, and then vice versa, where do you put Penn State? For me, I have Oregon at 2. I have them ahead of Notre Dame. I still think it was one little bad game by Oregon. If we did this all tomorrow, I still think Oregon is easily.
That's why I don't know how to do these. Is that where you finish?
That's the fun of it.
I want to do it as how you finish. Or
that's the fun of it. That's why we do it.
Postseason and preseason too. I guess I kind of mix mine because I also thought in the future, can I put Oregon at 2 or can I put Georgia at 5 or 6, knowing that it's Gunnar Stockton now? But we just saw Gunnar Stockton. Were they a worse team? Were they a better team? So the top 5 was honestly, I thought, one of the harder parts.
That's why I was saying I don't love my rankings because I'm what was I thinking? I was thinking this, but then my ruling for the next teams 11 and 12 wasn't the same idea. It was a different idea. So it was I didn't hold myself to a standard on what I was looking for. Georgia 6, Arizona State 7, Boise State 8, Indiana 9, Tennessee 10. I think Arizona State deserves to be in that spot. That you make a playoff, you make that good of a run at it, have a shot to win the dang thing, stay up there. Ahead of Boise State because I do think they're a better team than Boise State. Indiana 9, Tennessee. You cannot get beaten like a drum and stay and go above Indiana because I'm not saying. To me, if I put those teams head to head and they played, is it more what's that line? In all honesty, do we know what that line would be? Just off the top of your head, just Indiana, Tennessee, neutral site. Tennessee minus 3.5.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a pick.
Probably at the very high end 5, but that would be pushing.
And I'm not convinced Tennessee wins that game. So I have Indiana in that spot. I think this is a kind of a spot I didn't love either. SMU 11, Ole Miss 12, Clemson 13. Those three right there. I was like, do I keep Clemson in there just because they made the playoff and they didn't look bad? And you like, or do I drop them behind Ole Miss? I don't know. I like that Ole Miss team a lot this year.
No, I do
so
too.
I put them in
You're
there.
gonna love where I have these teams at.
BYU 14, Illinois 15. I have Illinois ahead of
Love
Miami.
Illinois, respect.
Yeah.
Feels like you're missing a team.
Yeah, Iowa State 16. That's one behind Illinois.
Okay.
I was tempted to put Illinois ahead of BYU too because I think that Illinois team was that good.
They are.
Miami, Alabama, then South Carolina, Syracuse, Missouri, Army, UNLV, Memphis, Colorado. So it's similar to AP in a lot of spots, but
Colorado.
Don't love it. Yeah.
All right, Jake, tell us about yours. Where do you differ?
We differ in pretty much everything, actually. My top 5 goes Ohio State, Oregon, like I mentioned, Notre Dame at 3, Texas at 4, Georgia at 5. Honestly, if I had to redo it, I might put Georgia ahead of Texas just because they've won head-to-head twice. 6
See,
through
I'm
10.
telling you, it's so hard. Like I was like, do I do like? I feel like I have to have head-to-head, but then they
JP,
finished,
I don't think me and you we have none of these similar. 6 through 10. I have Penn State at 6, Indiana at 7, Arizona State at 8. You could flip-flop either one of those teams for me. Tennessee at 9, Boise State at 10. Call me the G5 hater if you want. That's okay. I think all those teams are still better than Boise State. 11, I have Ole Miss. 12, I have Clemson. We're missing a team we haven't gotten in the college football playoff yet. 13, I have Illinois. I'm kind of with you guys. I think they are a pretty good team, and their only losses are really good football teams. 14, I have Miami. I think like if we're talking like a Cam Ward Miami team again tomorrow, that team's still really, really good. 15, I have Iowa State. 16, I have BYU. 17, I have SMU all the way down there. Really, really, really disappointed in what I saw just from that team in Happy Valley. 18, I have South Carolina. 19, Alabama. 20, shout out Reese. We miss you, buddy. I got Syracuse. And then 21 through 25 is a little different from the AP. I actually have LSU in at 21, Army 22, Memphis, UNLV, and then not Colorado. I have Louisville as my 2015. I think they're better I think they beat Colorado. I think Colorado, looking back, just like you gave up $1 billion to Kansas and you got your boat raced by BYU. You didn't really beat anybody this year.
I thought we weren't doing Buffalo slander anymore. Didn't you just accuse me of that last show? Monday night, you just accused me of that. So we're not doing that anymore.
Just being honest. That's not slander. I'm just being honest.
I'm always being honest when I talk about it. No bias whatsoever. No bias. I picked them a lot this year. Give me a break. Mine's pretty similar, I guess. The top 5 was, I agree, the hardest part, but I had Ohio State at 1. I put Oregon back at 5. I that's kind of what I was talking about. Like when I said, I kind of took into effect where they go into the quarterback position, where like going forward. So that's kind of what I took in the postseason. But what I saw from against that second Ohio State game was just bad. And it could have been credit to the bye week. But I put Penn State at 2, Notre Dame at 3, Texas at 4, Georgia at 6. I left Boise at 8. At 7, Arizona State at 8. Indiana I put at 9 and Tennessee at 10. So that's my top 10. I agree, JP. I think Indiana gets Tennessee. I wasn't really impressed with how Nico played down the stretch. Ole Miss at 11, BYU at 12, Iowa State at 13, Clemson at 14, SMU at 15, Illinois at 16. And honestly, I was shocked that I had them the lowest. I thought I was going to have them the highest out of the three of us. Miami 17, Alabama at 18, South Carolina at 19, Army at 20, Syracuse at 21, UNLV at 22, Memphis at 23. And then to round it out, I will give the flowers to the Buffaloes. I kept them in, but I think I ranked BYU high enough above them to keep them, somewhat relevant. But 24, Colorado. And then, of course, 25, I got to give a little bit of love back to the G5. Anybody want to take a guess at the last G5 school? They kind of fell off the map towards the end.
Marshall.
Tulane.
Yes. Marshall.
Your Sunbelt champs.
The team that didn't even play in a bowl game. You can't rank those pansies.
It's
Come
not their
on.
fault. Nobody was
Yeah.
at the school anymore.
They quit. It is
Well,
their fault.
Their coach.
Clean
It's not my
show. But
fault.
there was a
Finish
joke
the
out there that
season.
somebody made. But
Yeah,
clean
I've
show.
heard.
Clean show.
I've heard.
Clean show. Clean show.
I've heard.
All right. But yeah, that's my top 25. So a little bit messy towards the end, but the top 6 were definitely the hardest. We had some crossover. But Jake, let's hear your reasoning. Obviously, we said it was fair during your going through, but why SMU at 17? Somebody out there is probably questioning that.
Yeah, you go back. What were the last 2 games you saw? You lost the 2 biggest games on your schedule. You got blown out in that first round game. And just out of all of the teams that played in the first round, you could argue maybe Tennessee had the worst showing, but just like ineptitude to move the football, dumb, horrendous
Kevin
turnovers. It just leaves such a sour taste in my mouth for how good of a season Kevin Jennings did have. I go back to like the Duke game. Does the team really deserve to even win that one? I was all for them getting into the playoff. Like you go through your schedule and you handled it the way you should have. But I look back, I think I said this on a couple of episodes ago. I slapped myself thinking like, why did BYU not deserve that over SMU? And I let people talk me into thinking that SMU deserved it when 2-loss BYU Big 12 team didn't. And then when we saw what BYU did in their bowl game, again, against another Big 12 opponent, but watching Arizona State and then watching those two go against each other, like, man, that just kills me. Like, I would have loved to see BYU. Would they have won the football game? Probably not, but just I think the defense and the intensity would have been a slugfest at Happy Valley had they been in that spot for us.
It's a lot of white and a lot of blue in one spot.
It would have been interesting for the eyes.
All right. Let's leave that there. Any closing thoughts on your postseason top 25 you want to get off your chest? I know, JP, you didn't say you love yours, but after hearing the other 2, what do you say in comparison? Is there anything that you're like, damn, I should have done that too? Thought, pondering.
I don't know. Maybe like
I'm mad I didn't put Illinois higher, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you had them pretty
I
low.
feel like I was going to be the advocate.
You could convince me Illinois a little higher than what I had them at 15. I would say having Missouri at 21 seems a little too high for me, but
that's fair. I was either going to do that or could leave them out and put Minnesota in. That was my one team that I didn't know if I wanted to.
You can't put a team in
top
that Iowa drubbed.
Well, you can. Minnesota, you want to talk about teams that overachieved this year. I would say Minnesota did so.
Well,
right?
That'll be another show.
All right. Overachieve, underachieve. Yeah. I like that. People would get a kick out of those clips.
I wanted to ask you guys this. We kind of missed it in the 12 team thought topic.
I didn't miss anything, but go ahead.
Well, just a thought that I didn't get out was like, do you feel like we love college football? It's clearly why we do the show, but it just didn't feel right. Like Monday being the national championship on January 20th, like even the bowl games felt like years ago. I think it was Pate on his show, the disconnect between the national championship and the college football regular season or even postseason. Man, dude, like that Arizona State, Iowa State Big 12 title to me, just as a fan, feels centuries ago. We just finished the season. Yeah. We just finished the season on Monday. Like that, I love college football. We love doing it. We'll always do it. But like, it just felt wrong that we still had games going this far. That's not the college football I guess we've always known for.
I agree 100%. I didn't really think about it because honestly, it was the first time I've been home for the national title in a few years. As I mentioned last episode, I'm usually in Vegas doing other work. So, but it's a drastic difference. Like I don't even I try and think how long ago I even just watched Nebraska play in a bowl game. Like it just feels like a season ago. Like that almost felt like a kickoff of a new season. It was that drastic of a drop. What did you think?
You guys,
go ahead, Jake.
Or I was going to ask you guys. You guys remember like how excited people were for the first round and the first 2 rounds, and then like where was the excitement and the coverage? Really, those last
the NFL,
2,
because the NFL's got the money and they tell you where to put the advertising dollars. And
oh yeah, that is one thing we did not cover. That is
Is it the NFL though, or is it burnout? Like I think burnout's some of it to blame.
I don't know. How you burn out on more football and high level football? You're not getting fed UTSA.
I get, I get where you're
Northwest Missouri State on a Thursday.
But we're always like, as a fan, and again, we just got to get used to the new times. But as a fan, I'm always thinking like New Year's Day, and I'm okay with even going past New Year's Day. But like, I think of New Year's Day in college football, like I pour my heart and soul and like to watching 7 games that day as a fan, and then like
hungover,
it's gonna be
burrito,
little hungover,
and
it's gonna be the season's pretty much gonna be over. Maybe you have a semifinal, maybe you have a national championship yet to be played, but like. We're 23 days, we're 21 days away, separated from New Year's Day, and we're like that. That to me was it just felt weird. I don't know. And we were playing the second round, the quarterfinals on New Year's Day.
So spoiled on those last 2 years of college football playoff having 4 teams. Those New Year's Eve games, and then the New Year's, both were on New Year's Eve. How spoiled we were on those 4 games, like.
Those were awesome.
Ohio State, Georgia, in 22. Michigan, TCU. I still think Washington, Texas is one of the best games we've seen in a long time. Like if I'm ranking those 4 games,
that game was so late.
It was so good. I'm putting Ohio State, Georgia, then I'm going Washington, Texas, and then I'm going Michigan, TCU, and then I'll go Michigan, Alabama. Like. Yeah, we were so spoiled, and the recency bias of just seeing that, I think, definitely plays.
Well, also too, the rounds in between each other were like 8 and 9 days long. Like they weren't a week, so it's just more days. Yeah, we're just kind of dragging this thing along.
We're playing football though. We got to you got to travel. Kids got to recover. It's a lot, and the bowl
maybe that's how you fix it. JP, if you get your way and you go second round games at home. That takes away. Maybe the next game that shortens the timeline a little bit. That could help.
I'm good with no conference championships. Like I am. I'm all in on
shut the hell up. I kind of am too.
It's not, dude. Conference championships, like people like us as fans, we're in our mid-20s. We know
I'll lose it.
Well, don't touch it,
but you can just.
Once it moved to week 1 or whatever, it's week 0. That's insane.
Isn't it okay though? Like for Army Navy, so say Army Navy's at what is it? Is it noon on Saturday? They usually do
2 or 3 usually.
Okay. Why couldn't you play 1 game Friday night? Why couldn't you play a game after that? I don't know. I just feel like maybe you slot 2 games on Friday night. I'm all good with you keep it there. I get it's the history and you leave it alone. And I love the game more than anybody. But also, back to my point, conference championships have not been around that long. They've been around our entire lifetime as young college football fans, but I'm okay with getting rid of it. It makes the regular season that much bigger. I don't know.
You know why the conference title thing, to me, for the smaller conferences, it's different, but the Army-Navy thing not wanting to move. If you play at Army or you play at Navy, would you rather beat Army or Navy, beat your rival, or win the American Athletic Conference? Be honest.
Yeah, that plays into a factor
Army,
too.
I wanted that Navy game more than I wanted that conference title game.
And you play all year for it. Like what if you play the first game of the year? Like no, you don't. I've always said Iowa State should be moved to one of the last weeks of the year. It's something you just look forward to all year. Like I think rivalry games deserve to be played on the last game. We're getting off topic from the playoff, but I think rivalry games deserve to be put towards the end of the season.
You can't move Iowa State that late because we played Nebraska last week of the year.
I know that now that you've made the Nebraska thing, which come on, you just restarted that. It's new.
It wasn't even restarted.
They literally made it out of nothing.
It was terrible trophy. Trophy so it's not even you could move Nebraska. You're not ruining history. It's not Nebraska, Iowa is not historical.
It's not
correct. That's correct.
It's just that.
So, but anyways.
No. Let me go back really quick to what you just said. This is going back. Aren't you guys? We just talked about it a little earlier when you said, that's too much NFL. Isn't eliminating conference championships makes it more like the NFL? Like your regular season matters. That determines your seeding. Like conference title, that's college football. Winning a Big 12 title.
But I think now that we're away from no divisions, like ruins the conference title thing for me. Like Iowa State got what? We beat 2 teams in a 4-way tie to get in. Like there's 16 teams now. Like we just point differential and who we played this year got us in. It wasn't our record or who we beat. It just kind of like the division stuff. getting rid of the divisions, I think kind of ruined the fun of conference titles. I don't
Let
know.
me ask you this. Is any bit of your opinion because Iowa State would have had a better shot to get in if they didn't play the conference title against Arizona State?
No, that is honestly has nothing to do with it. But
Okay,
I
fair.
I
I gotta ask.
genuinely it eliminates getting rid of the conference title too. Also gets rid of our auto buys, our automatic buys, or our automatic bids that we're talking about as well, or just win the regular season. But we've made this bet of 16 team conferences. How do we decide who's the champion out of it? You kind
They
of have
can't
to
get
play
rid of them. The more I think about it, because it's like Boise State wins the Mountain West title. That I doesn't, they were probably in anyway, but that
Here's
probably doesn't make me feel
here
good unless they win it. Like
which
you're gonna
is my
screw a
point,
lot of
Parks. Which is my point. You're the best team in the Mountain West. You go 9-0. You earned it. You grinded a regular season to win that Mountain West title. You have one bad game on a Saturday in the conference title race, and now you're out of the playoff because you lost. You slipped up to a UNLV team who you went to Vegas and beat them. Just say Boise loses the conference title and they hypothetically. No, now what was the point of all that? Like they earned the right
UNLV
to
could have
win the
got it.
Mountain West.
That's why it was so fun.
It's kind of like
UNLV should have won the first time. That's the point of the regular season.
we're gonna tie this back into like college basketball a little bit. That's why I really like the smaller conferences that give like 3 buys, like all the way to semifinals for their teams that go 22-1 in conference. Yeah, because they should. You should want, if you're a smaller conference, you should want your absolute best to have the shot to go into this and play for the whole thing. Some small conferences don't. They give them like 1 bye, and then some give them like none. Dude.
And then
I don't
24
and 16
Elon loses.
I don't need 4 and 16 Marist going and beating, Bryant down the road. I know they're not in the same conference, but you know what I'm saying? Like it to me, that makes sense that if you are, 9-0, 8 now if there's 2 8-1s, right? If there's no head to head, it gets a little tougher. Like just for me, it's just strength schedule, who play the tougher teams, that kind of thing. In smaller schools, you can still do it, but understand the risk you're taking when you do it.
All right. Let's leave that all there. We're a little bit like 5 minutes shorter on tonight's episode, but that is perfectly fine. We got a ton to talk throughout the offseason. We'll do fun stuff. We'll do trivia. We'll do logo quizzes when Reese gets back. That will come during the offseason. Before we talk college football in 2025 to 2026, Reese will return. So we are looking forward to that. But we appreciate you being here. JP put it down on the ticker below. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Go to our YouTube, take a few seconds, hit the subscribe button. It helps more than you know. We're on the road to 1K still. We wanted to hit it by the end of the year. We failed. It's probably on us, but you can help us out by hitting that subscribe button today. We are at 849 before the show started, so let's hope that we're at least over 850 by the time this ends and a couple of you listen to us, but we appreciate you being here nonetheless. Follow us on all platforms at Play the Fight Pod. We will get off-season content out almost every day. Follow us on Instagram. TikTok is back, so you might as well follow us on there. We'll start posting again. Facebook, X, the whole 9. We love you. We'll see you next time. Jake, take us away.
Play it.